You saw about C.R. Kennedy? All right. So C.R. Kennedy started in 1940. Lucky enough, they started in Melbourne. Family-owned business. It still is to this day. They started off selling Pentax cameras. So, been very successful selling Pentax cameras. And they wanted optics lenses for optical glasses. Then they went to do medical equipment for Pentax. Then they went to do theodolites. Back then in the 70s. Back then they were called theodolites, they weren't called total stations. Then they affiliated because he came to C.R. Kennedy, a person by the name of Colin Plum. He used to sell gyrometers. Has anyone heard of gyrometers? Gyrometers were very highly used out there. An orange instrument. Unfortunately, they got bought over by Trimble. And C.R. Kennedy had the possessions of gyrometers. So unlike of Trimble, because Leica came about, because Trimble goes, no, we don't want C.R. Kennedy to be the exclusive dealers in Australia. And Leica said, we want C.R. Kennedy to be our exclusive dealers, so C.R. Kennedy started to take them over. And they got this whole license, and now we're the biggest distributors of total stations in Australia. Okay? So we're lucky enough that we got the head office in Port Melbourne. You're all welcome to come and visit us, say hello. For those who are going to go and do your degree later on, if you're doing your research, we will help you as much as we can. Every year we get like 3 students coming in, sit down, we give them all the nice new tool, beautiful toys, and they can do the research. Okay, all from GIS, drones, scanning, total stations. We'll help you out as much as we can. All right, you've met Jane before. Jane is our national person in technical side, and she's the only one that writes. That's our agreement. But she writes directly to Leica, and Leica do hear what she's got to say. She used to work for Leica before, so we've got a very close affiliation with Leica. Now Leica is made in Switzerland, for those who don't know, and it's still made on the same factories where Wild used to be made. Wild is the old name that Leica used to be known as. Two brothers took over the ownership of Leica and the camera. A lot of people affiliate ourselves with the cameras, the Leica cameras and the Leica total stations, but 2 different companies, and now they're not, they use the same name, but they're not got nothing to do with one another. Today, Leica is actually owned by Hexagon. Hexagon is a Swedish company, one of the largest in software, hardware, of survey equipment in the world. They don't just do total station. Total station is probably like 20%. They also do metrology. They also do obviously different type of software. They do drones. They do machine control. They do the new one is for car accidents. They work in that sort of area as well. And they do a lot of data management. So they are aware, you also the scanner, how much data the RTC 360 obtains. That's a lot of data. If you do, how many scans did you do? 5 scans? 9, 5, 9, doesn't matter. It didn't take long at all. Okay, 9 scans times 2 gigabyte. That's back in my day when I studied here at RMIT, 500 megabyte was too much for us. Okay. Oh, little history about myself. So I did civil engineering at RMIT. Went to do other things. Then I started working with a geologist. He got me involved in surveying. So I needed to do a quick course in surveying. So I ended up here. First I studied at Studley Park. That's the old classroom they used to use. And then they came here, so I was one of the first students here at this annex. There was only 9 of us. Okay, there was only 9 of us that, basically they were going to close down survey in the TAFE because there weren't many students. After theory came, then they multiply. I don't know why. Must be his French accent. But yeah, so it's grown dramatically since I studied here. And then I went to, as soon as I got a job here, studied here, I got a job at Vic Roads. So I worked at Vic Roads, learned a lot about cadastral there. I decided that I wasn't going to do my license at Vic Roads. And then I joined a company called SKM, and I saw the light there. SKM is now Jacobs. For those who know, does anyone know Jacobs? Big engineering company, multinational, global, around the world. And that's when I started using Leica instrument. And I didn't like Leica. I didn't like the way the software was. I didn't like a few things. But what I've learned is that when I was doing measurements out there and I got something wrong, I knew that I was getting something wrong, not the instrument. I became very reliant that whatever the instrument said, I was doing and I was getting. And when I started working at SKM, it was a different motive than at Vic Road, because you're out there, you only get one day, one shot when you're out there. I worked in the north and south pipeline, and we had to go into properties and we had to get it right there and then, because we weren't allowed access to the property ever again. So we had to make sure that everything was, spot on. And that's how I got to know Jane. I used to ring her up, hey, my instrument's not working. Oh, you're pressing the wrong button. So simple as that. Then later on, a lead position came up 6 years ago now at CR Kennedy, and I joined them. And I'm one of the senior sales reps there. And then you've got all my colleagues. One of the great things about it is that you learn and we get to play with all the new toys. It's not so much that I sell to a company, it's just we all unlock, I love unpacking new things. And it's so exciting for us when the RTC came in, we all just jumped and unpacked the RTC and just, brought it out of this box. It just has, and the smell of it, it's just great. So that's one of the advantages of working there. We get to see the latest, hear the latest. Now, the way the total stations work, this is the high-end total station the Leica has. They do metrology as well. They look a little bit similar, but I won't talk about metrology because it's a different area. I'll talk about surveying. So this total station is the MS60. As you can see, it's got two faces, but you can add to the ones you've got here. Have you got two faces in yours here? Right. This way. You can add two faces if you wish. This one's got two cameras. All right. It does look a little bit more beefy than yours. It's because it can also do scanning. Okay. When this one came out, when this model came out 6 years ago, it used to be called the MS50. Then the software changed 2 years later, and it came out the MS60. Okay. It's a high-end total station, 1 second, dual camera. It can do reflectorless up to 2 kilometers. It can actually measure to a single prism over 4 kilometers. The most I've done is 3.8 kilometers to a single prism. When you do that, word of advice, make sure you put your atmospheric correction and you put your scale factor in there. All right, that's when I learned that I can do that. I never measured to such a distance. I won a bet. The guy actually ended up buying the total station off me because of that, because it's the only total station that can do it, and within 5 mil. So as I say, when you do measuring, that's what Leica likes to be foreseen as precision, always right, and that's the motive they use. When it has to be right, Leica. This one here, this instrument, it's got a piezo drive, so it's very smooth, very fast. It's the fastest one out there. It's like a ceramic, all right? So you don't hear it move, and it moves very quickly. So below that, so this is the MS60. Below that is the TS60. The TS60 comes as a half a second instrument, very precise. It hasn't got the scanning ability. It is a total station. But that is what it's getting used to do the monitoring for the metro tunnel at the moment. And at the moment, we're crossing our fingers that they're going to buy more of that. It's what gets used in the London tunnels. It's what got used in the Norway tunnel, one of the longest tunnels in the world. I'm not sure if you heard of it. Forget about Switzerland. Anything in Switzerland is Leica. So they do a lot of research underground, Leica does, especially for tunneling. Below that, from the TS60, we do have a monitoring total station called the M. We only sell that if you're doing monitoring, for dam monitoring, or if you need an instrument to be there, which is what they should have used in Italy, permanently fixed in a box, always measuring. It's called the monitoring series instrument. Then below that is the TS series, the total station series. And that's the 16, and that's what you have here now. Okay, so the TS16 is divided into 3 categories. The P series, P for power surge, which is the faster one. Then you got the M series, which is the A series, which is the automated. So the biggest difference, it hasn't got the power surge. And then the M series, that it's manual. Okay. Then below the TS16 is a brand new total station called the TS13. The TS13 just got released in June. It's got no face. Biggest difference between the TS16 and TS13, it's got no face, and it's an instrument that you could add on things to it. Leica's never had that before, that if you wanted to have a power surge, you could add that on. If you want long reflectorless, you can add that on, so then the price goes up. Then we've got our manual series total stations, which is what you've got here, which is the flex line. And in the flex line you got the TS09, TS06 and TS02. TS09 has got a color screen and a few more programs. TS06 is black and white. TS02 is just like a theodolite. Alright. They're my least preferable total station, and when I was here, they used to have one of those. I used to hate it. I hate the program in there. You go from one to the other. It's just you waste a lot of time out there on the field. Okay. Now Leica has actually introduced them. You all saw the controller there. That controller is the same year as this, 4 years old. That controller could talk to any Leica total station and GPS out there. Okay, so we've got the old total stations are the 1200 series, the TS15, the TS16 are the new ones. TS13, that controller can talk to anything, same as GPS. So we've got GS07s, GS16s, GS18. That's what we sell in Australia. There is a GS14. We don't bring it into Australia because we look at the prices, not much difference. In regards to the TS16, all the total stations come as a 1 second instrument, 2 second, 3 second, 5 second, 7 second. We don't sell the 7 second, and we don't sell the 2 second, because we believe that the 2 second, if you want to go high end, just go to the 1 second. Otherwise, if you don't know about it, just buy the 3 second. All right, you're saving a lot more money. What we sell the most, the leading #1 total station in Australia, is the Leica 3 second R500. That is what we sell the most out there. We sell lots of it. I don't like to brag on how much Leica gets sold in Australia, but we control around 60% of the market. Then you got our competitors, Sokia, Trimble, Topcon. But Leica's got 60% of the market. That's due to the mining, because mining's preferred. Leica is #1 choice because of its high IP ratings. Also, we've got more officers than anyone else out there, and we're all surveyors. We're all past surveyors, so if there is an issue, you ring us up, we know what's out there, so we know how to talk. So apart from the 1 second, 3 second, 5 second instrument, we also got reflectorless from the range from 30 meters, we don't sell those, 500 meters and then 1,000 meters. Okay, so that's what the R stands for. In if you ever see the names of a total station, you see TS16, you see the 3 second, then you see R500. Then you can actually have imaging inside the total station. You can have a camera inside. We don't sell many of those because it's another $2,000 more, and everyone's got smartphones or iPhones these days, plus our controls have got cameras. Okay, so that's more of like a luxury. It does help now and then if you're doing cadastral work and you need to take a photo of your adjoining properties. But the way I see it these days, if you're going to spend $2,000, buy a BLK, the little BLK scanner, put it into that, because that's a brilliant little piece of tool and what you can do. Regarding this MS60, all right, and the programs that you can use in there, there's multiple programs that gets developed for different people around the world. Okay, in Australia we saw Refline quite a lot, developed by Listec. They developed that, and a lot of people like to set up a line and work a meter offset from that line when they're doing the cadastral work. Okay, so there is a program, an app. Now everyone, like you guys know, is that app, and it's got Refline. There's another one called Sets of Angles. Sets of Angles is a really good program to be used for if you're monitoring. If you've got different type of prisms, say on a dam wall, on a bridge, you got your little prisms, you got your big circular prisms, then you got your 360 prism. You could put all that in the program. You say, yep, target number 1, target number 2, target number 3, as multiple targets as you want. The instrument will remember that, and then it could do a sets of rounds. So we'll go measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You could get it to measure backwards. You could get it to measure to skip a second one, and then you'll get given a written report. Okay, sets of angles. That's what gets used at the metro at the moment. The tunnel gets used on dams, and it's what are some bridges? It's being used. I actually used it on the Westgate Bridge. It's an excellent program to use, very easy to use, because all you do is just put your things in and then the instrument starts doing it by itself, and then it gives the results. There's a new app in there called Surface for those who are working in concrete and they are putting fresh concrete out there. You can measure the concrete, and then you can actually see, you know what you're supposed to have. So you got your surface that's supposed to be, and you can measure what it's actually been poured, and then by color the instrument will let you know straight away if there is a difference. Okay, very good one to use very quickly, because when they're putting concrete they have to do it quickly and they have to do it right, and it costs money to do that, but that program could save a lot of money out there. Other programs that there's tunneling programs. At the moment, there's a company called Surex. They're using a tunneling program out there. It's a new one they're using, and that gives them the perfect sort of shape for the tunnel that they're actually excavating underneath Yarraville at the current moment. There's other ones called for railway. There's other programs for volume. I had to measure all these volumes of stockpiles, and it was dangerous. We had to go around. It just took us forever. It used to take me 4 hours to do one stockpile. If I had such a program, it would only take me 30 minutes, because all I'll do is take four shots in the bottom, a shot in the middle, a shot on the top, and then it'll calculate volume straight away for me. All right, I didn't have that luxury when I used to use the Leica equipment back then. Other things you could do is bringing DXF files, so CAD files. You could bring other type of format files from other software, and you could have them sitting in the background. So if you're doing cadastral work, it's very easy, to do your set out and to do your re-establishment, or if you're looking for points. And it's very easy program to use is your stakeout. There's multiple graphic ways of viewing yourself in 3D or not, or just by a bird's eye view when you're doing stakeouts. So there's some of the programs that are built in the instrument. Very powerful. Most of the surveyors out there that are using our instrument only use 50% of its capability. Okay? All it takes is for you to give us a phone call and say, oh no, you can do this with the instrument, and have more trust on it. I mean, people do have the trust because they ring. If the instrument's around 5 seconds out, they'll ring it straight away. Hey, I'm 20 minutes, 20 seconds out, what's the story? So one of the major things, if they're out, it's the legs, okay? You have to look after the leg as you look after the instrument. Make sure your legs are good, firm, all your screws are nicely down. Then it's the tri-brake, because the tri-brake is different. It's a separate part of the instrument, okay? And sometimes the foot screws, they get a bit dusty and they don't work as appropriate. They do get a bit loose, okay? Then the instrument, okay? Like I said, you could put a radio handle on top so you could drive it.